Good morning, Woodland, fifth grade. Let's go. What a great week. What a great week this is going to be, ladies and gents. Hope you enjoyed your 5-day weekend. Right? We had I guess really 4-day if you count Thursday being field day, right? Thursday was field day, Friday off, Saturday, Sunday off, Monday off. So I hope you enjoyed field day. I got outside, helped my little man. I don't know if you saw it on the Warren Township Facebook side there, in case your parents were checking it out. But I was teaching my middle son how to play some golf. Then my older son kind of chimed in. So we've been hitting golf balls all weekend in the backyard. So that's been a lot of fun. All right. Good morning. It is May 26th, 2020, and I am thrilled you're here. Just a few more days left to May, which means just a few more days left overall. On this day in history, in 1897, big literacy day, Dracula premieres. First copies by Irish writer Bram Stoker become available in London. In 1868, President Johnson is acquitted in his Senate impeachment trial. A month earlier, the House had impeached him. In 1927, this is great news. It was the last day, interesting news, not great news, interesting news, last day that the Ford Model T had been produced. The Model T was the standard. If you don't know what that looks like, type in Ford Model T, and you'll see what that car looked like. 15 million were in production in just a short period of time. That was amazing, that time period, right? In 1896, Wall Street began producing the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which, of course, for those of you stock buffs out there, that's the 30 large stocks. If you make the Dow 30, how they do on any given day. It's a pulse, I guess you could say, of the market. And by the looks of things, the Dow today is ready to pop big time. Looks like it's up over 500, the futures at least. And talking of a little bit of, investing is different than gambling. In 1978, those of you parents that are following me out there, the first casino opened in Atlantic City. It became the first legal gambling on the East Coast of the United States. Of course, Las Vegas out west had been a massive attraction for years prior. Birthdays today, we celebrate the birthday of famed Western actor John Wayne. He was born in 1907 and passed in 1979. They called him the Duke. He was a major box office icon for lots of Westerns for about 30 years. Sally Ride, she's sadly no longer with us. She was the first American woman to orbit the Earth, born in 1951, passed in 2012. Miles Davis, American jazz musician. Once again, I'm naming huge names out there. I mean, I know fortunately they've passed away, including Miles Davis. He was born in 1926, passed in 1991, American jazz musician. And lastly, Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac fame. She turns 72 years young today. And on this day in music history, because I always try to grab a little bit of music history from here, from now, now and again. First time in 1990, top 5 spots on the U.S. singles chart were held by women. 1990 it took until. First 5 spots on the U.S. singles. Madonna was number 1 with Vogue. You had Heart. You had Sinead O'Connor at 3. You had Wilson Phillips at 4. And Janet Jackson at 5. That's your news for the day. Let's go. All right, we are flying through things today. Just a quick note on some instruction of the day. You'll notice that Mr. Kilroy has actually produced, I don't think I could have said it any better. I genuinely mean this. He says to me, Mr. Yanish, I put together a video for fractions to sort of supplement yours. I watched the entire thing and I thought, is there anything that I would have done differently here? So I pushed his video out to you. It's very well done. He's got all of the illustrations, the images. Please today for your math notes, make sure you have 2 different colors of colored pencils, contrasting, like a red and a blue or an orange and a green. It's going to be important as we work through the next few days in multiplying fractions. Remember, we kind of skipped this for a little bit. Now we're going to come back to it and kind of close out the year with multiplying and dividing fractions, and then kind of have one culminating week where we add, subtract, multiply, divide various fractional values. So please take a look at that. Make sure you take notes. I'll follow up with some more notes tomorrow. What else did I want to tell you? And of course, in reading today, I have a special assignment that posted at 9 a.m. I need a little bit of help on this graduation speech this year. You know, normally my graduation speeches are people wait for them, right? I mean, you know, I draw on and on I go for, you know, a solid amount of time. I'm going to be given only a limited amount of time this year due to, you know, our graduation festivities being online. So what I'd like to do is get some of your input. So please jot down your 5th grade memories in the document that I pushed out to you on Google Classroom. Okay, please don't submit it any sooner than 9 a.m. on Thursday. I will then take all of these classic memories and try to fit as many of them as I can into my graduation speech. So with that being said, let's go. Chapter 15, Monday, April 15th, 1912, 2:55 a.m. Let's just go back a little bit into the previous chapter, just kind of remind where we are here. They're on the boat there, right? It's kind of capsizing. Lean to the left, lean to the right, stand straight. Patty obeyed along with all the others, sandwiched in frozen misery in the column of sodden, shivering bodies. He could not tear his eyes from the second officer. Charles Herbert Lightoller was inflexible, tyrannical, and the sourest man alive. But tonight, he was their best hope. Chapter 15. Once again, we are not aboard any structure. Instead, we're at a latitude and longitude, 41 degrees north, 50 degrees west. Monday, April 15th, 1912, 2:55 a.m. Alfie and Sophie used their cupped hands to bail water out of the cupboards of the floating pantry. I saved a jar for bailing, Alfie apologized, but I had to break it over Masterson's head. I'll have Mother write a letter to protest to the White Star Line, Sophie quipped. Protesting is her strong suit. So your mom made it to one of the boats? Alfie commented. That's good. Sophie squinted through the gloom, reading the pain in his expression. Your dad didn't. It was not a question. He didn't even try, Alfie confirmed bitterly. He was at the post right to the end, for all that it helped. Maybe it helped him to think he was doing the right thing, she soothed. I don't know what happened to Patty, though. He went overboard when I did, and I haven't seen Julie. Miss Julie's on a lifeboat, Alfie told her. I don't think the Earl made it, though. So many didn't make it, Sophie shook her head. The sound of those people in the water. Both paused, realizing for the first time that the sound was now gone. Had any of those souls been picked up by the lifeboats? Perhaps a few. The rest were silent because they were dead. Oh my God, Alfie, she wailed. What's happened here? They huddled together for warmth and comfort, mourning the hundreds who had died and wondering if they would soon be joining their numbers. They'd been told that, in this dazzling new 20th century, distress calls sent out by Marconi Wireless could have dozens of ships steaming to their rescue. Yet they'd also been told that the Titanic was unsinkable. Could any of it be believed? And even if ships were coming, how long would it take them to find a ragtag group of survivors floating in an ocean thousands of miles wide? By the time they got here, would everybody be dead of exposure and thirst? Your teeth are chattering, Alfie told her. I'm so very cold. It was at that moment that Sophie noticed something. Alfie was no longer shivering. His bare hands were not even in the pockets of his uniform coat. Aren't you frozen? Of course I am, Alfie replied automatically. You don't look it. Well, a surprised look came over his face as he took stock of himself. Come to think of it, it's not so bad. Maybe it's getting warmer. It's not. Sophie assured him with growing concern. You're soaked to the skin, and the air is well below freezing. I'm probably just getting used to it, he suggested with a yawn. Sophie's finishing school had taught nursing skills this past term. One lesson had been the effects of extreme cold on the human body. It was called hypothermia, and its symptoms included a feeling of warmth and comfort when no such feeling should exist. Drowsiness was another. Yes, they were tired, but no one could be sleepy, soaking wet, ice cold, and in mortal danger. Alfie was in trouble. Help! She shouted into the pitch black night. Is anybody out there? We need help! I don't think anyone can hear you, Alfie said mildly. Help! Sophie had seen her mother preside over 1,000 rallies. Help! Sophie had seen her mother preside over a rally thousands strong by the sheer power of her voice. If that volume is within me, I must summon it now, she thought to herself. Sophie Bronson shouted, screamed, begged, cajoled, and bellowed until the very waves rang with her cries. Alfie just watched, bemused, but made no comment. He was humming now, the same ragtime tune that the orchestra had played during the loading of the lifeboats. Sophie took a short breath and began howling again. Boat ahoy! Came a distant call. She'd done it. Someone was coming. Over here! She hollered, scanning the darkness. She could not see the boat, but she could hear the oars splashing clumsily in the water. Amateur rowers. A few seconds later, the silhouette was there, blocking the stars just above the horizon. Sophie! Came a voice. Is that you? Sophie felt a rush of emotion. Julie! Alfie's with me. He needs to get warm. She could see it now. One of the Titanic's lifeboats, sitting low in the water, dangerously full. She spotted Juliana with the sleeping child on her shoulder. We're all cold, miss, said the young crewman in command. It's Junior Steward Huggins, Sophie called. He shows signs of hypothermia. Can you take us aboard? We've no room, miss, but we can take you in tow so you don't drift away. Sophie was alarmed. That's not good enough. He'll die. I'm fine, Alfie insisted vaguely and continued his humming. Juliana handed the baby to the woman beside her, shrugging out of her cloak and tossed it into the floating pantry. Take my wrap. At least it's dry. Sophie grabbed it gratefully and arranged it around Alfie's shoulders. Look, said someone in the crowded lifeboat. A shooting star. Or distant lightning, offered the crewman. That's not it, exclaimed Juliana, tense with discovery. It's a light, and it's moving. All eyes focused on the phantom glimmer. If it's really a steamer, said the crewman skeptically, then the flickering should stop as her masthead clears the horizon. Sophie watched, trembling with hope. Alfie tried to concentrate, peering into the night. Juliana shivered in her thin gown, began to pray softly, and several other voices joined in. It was only a few minutes, but it felt like an hour before the distant twinkle resolved itself into a steady beam. Help was on the way. I'll pause there. I want you just to kind of make a prediction. I see you all on Padlet this morning. Thanks for joining me. Remember, if you haven't commented on all of the past readings, please make sure you do. I update a spreadsheet weekly to make sure I give you a week. So today I'll check for last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at least, to see exactly if you're chiming in each day. Please make sure your thoughts on there are at this point really developed. You shouldn't just be writing obviously one sentence for a chapter. So make a prediction there. Think about what's going to happen. Who will be rescued? Will they all survive? Will someone sadly pass? Give you a moment on that. I'm just looking at my email, by the way. Those of you that are out there, I pushed out a call for Battle of the Books. It'll be a modified one this year. Mrs. McGrath is looking to run it. If you have not filled it out, I sent it to your parents. She's received 36 entries with 17 of you interested. So we can definitely run likely maybe 3 or 4 teams. So if you are interested, please, please, please must be in by today. So as soon as I'm done with this reading, go on over to the post that I put in Homeroom for Flexible Instruction and take a look at it, fill out the survey for Mrs. McGrath. Either way, if you're interested or not interested, this way she has everybody on record. She just sent that out. Okay, let's go. Chapter 16. Once again, we're at latitude 41 north, longitude 50 degrees west. Monday, April 15th, 1912, 3:25 a.m. "The next man who turns around without my permission is going in the drink," exclaimed Second Officer Lightoller. In the past hour, the overturned collapsible had sunk inch by inch as the precious air pocket lost its volume. The occupants were now standing knee-deep in water, with the roughening seas washing up to their waists. No longer could Harold Bride recline on the deck and still keep his head above water. Lightoller had him hauled to his feet and wedged between 2 of the stronger standees. "But, sir," Patty protested, "you saw the lights. That's a rescue ship." "Perhaps, but staring at her isn't going to make her come here any faster." "Make no mistake, this ordeal is not over," read with permission from Scholastic. It might not be over by half. Consider the number of boats in the water, the number of persons who must be taken aboard. We must survive until our turn comes, and we can only do that by preserving our air pocket. Now lean to the left." Standing on frostbitten feet, Patty held his surging hope ebb away with the second officer's harsh words. Not half over? Lightoller was a bully, but no one could doubt the man's seamanship. Of course, it would take time to unload survivors from 20 lifeboats scattered across miles of ocean. If they were one of the last to be spotted, rescue could still be hours away. He looked down and could no longer see his submerged boots. The overturned collapsible would not remain afloat for hours. If it took that much time, they'd be swimming. And enough corpses had floated by the Engelhart for Patty to understand the meaning of that. At least then I won't have to listen to Lightoller anymore, he thought. Who was he kidding? If he died here, it was a sure bet that he'd show up at the pearly gates to find the second officer organizing the lineup, threatening to report slackers to St. Peter. He thinks to himself, maybe it'll be here sooner than we think. The devil take Lightoller. I'm going to look at the rescue ship. Both masthead lights were visible now, one over the other, and the motion was clearly discernible. She was coming and coming fast. Then something strange happened. The lights began to wink in and out. Patty blinked, then squinted. His night sight returned slowly, and he realized the cause of the strange effect. The lights were not flashing on and off. Something was passing between the Engelhart and the rescue ship. He could make out the silhouettes of heads lined up close to the surface of the water. "I told you not to turn around, boy," Lightoller rasped. "Lifeboats!" Patty exclaimed in wonder. "A whole string of them, look!" Lightoller peered in the gloom. "You really are lucky." The second officer cupped his hands to his mouth and called out, "Boat ahoy!" Yet the night of yelling orders had robbed him of his usual strident voice. All 30 began to cry out at the top of their lungs, but even as a group, they could not create enough sound to carry across the water. Cursing in frustration, Lightoller fished a silver whistle from his pocket and brought it to his lips. In boat 12, the last thing Seaman Frederick Clench expected to hear was the shrill whistle of the officer of the watch. The Titanic was long gone, so he almost doubted his own ears, as if he were hearing a phantom call from beyond the grave. But it persisted. And the passengers were hearing it too. Someone was out there, clearly calling for help. Was it Fifth Officer Lowe? He was the one who had created the tiny flotilla of 4 lifeboats, reasoning that a passing steamer would be quicker to spot a larger object than a smaller one. So they had banded these lifeboats close together. Lowe had gone off on his own to look for struggling swimmers. Had something gone wrong with that mission? Did the rescuer now need rescue? Oh, by the way, did you notice? I don't know if some of you realize Sunday, the Titanic was on. My aunt messaged me and she says, check out CBS Titanic's on. I don't know if anybody of you caught that, but I thought that was pretty interesting that here we are reading it and it was also on as like the Sunday night movie of Memorial Day weekend. Clench scoured the darkness in the direction of the sound until his eyes fell upon the strangest sight he had ever seen in all his years at sea. A crowd of men, dozens strong, appeared to be standing on the surface of the water. Do you see it too? Exclaimed the woman beside him. What's holding them up? Clench was a practical man. They'd have to be perched on something that's sinking. He and another seaman detached boats 4 and 12 from the group and began rowing toward the knot of standees. As he grew closer, the appalling plight of these poor men struck him like a hammer blow. Their gaunt faces were frozen in stark white death masks, full of terror and suffering. Several of them seemed to be only semi-conscious. Second Officer Lightoller called out, "You're coming up too hard. We're on the hull of an upturned boat, and it won't take much for us to sink." "Aye, sir." The seaman maneuvered alongside with skill and finesse. He received a cheer from the men that was so faint as to be almost inaudible. Clench knew that, had he heard the whistle 10 minutes later, there might have been no one left to take aboard. Exhausted as he was, Lightoller assumed command, taking charge of an incredibly delicate operation. Every time a man was transferred to one of the lifeboats, those who remained had to rebalance themselves as the Engelhart sank further. Many lacked the strength to swing a leg over the side and had to be physically lifted. To everyone's amazement, a bedraggled figure hanging in the water off the stern of the overturned collapsible abandoned his hold and swam the few strokes over to boat 4. All transfers halted as everyone watched Chief Baker, Charles, I guess his name is Jogan, hauled himself over the gunwale and tumble aboard. "Good God, man," Lightoller exploded. "How long have you been down there?" The sodden Baker looked at him. Since the sinking, he had survived more than 2.5 hours in the icy water that had snuffed out hundreds of lives in a matter of minutes. It may or may not have made a difference, but the Baker reeked of whiskey. So his name, I don't know if this is a real character. His name is real person who survived. So this would be interesting to read up on. His name is Charles Jogan. That's Joughin. Charles Joughin. Did he really hang on for 2 hours? Is that a true story? I'm going to look into that. Okay. With the help of whiskey, he was able to survive. Paddy was next. He stepped into the boat, avoiding the helping hand offered by Lightoller. In spite of all that the second officer had done to save their lives, there was no escaping the suspicion that his true intent was to grab the stowaway and fling him into the sea. It was irrational, but to Paddy, it was very real. The last time he'd sat down and been in the Titanic's brig, a lifetime ago. Now, after standing for so long, leaning to the left, leaning to the right, a seat in his lifeboat seemed as luxurious as the throne of King George himself. It was at that moment, in relative comfort for the first time in so long, that Paddy noticed the first faint streaks lightening the black sky. "Morning!" he exclaimed. "I didn't expect to live to see it." You were right, Phillips, commented Lightoller as he handed another man aboard. That steamer should be here in just as dawn breaks. Marconi operator Jack Phillips did not respond to this rare compliment from the Titanic's second officer. He had died of exposure during the night, propped upright in a crowd of 30, alone and unmourned. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be all for today. I want you to get down to your business. So tomorrow, obviously, we'll begin the rescue mission now. Carpathia will be the next. Let's see here. Tomorrow we kick off chapter 17, 3:50 a.m., and it looks like it's entitled RMS Carpathia. So a little bit shorter today, but I want to get you back in stride. Make sure you have enough time to check out those final videos on the Symphony of the Seas. Remember last week I pushed out that assignment for you to take a peek. Please make sure that you have looked at all of them today. Tomorrow I'll bring about 10 of you in a Google Meet at one time, and then another 10 at another time, and we'll just kind of discuss some of the amazing things within it, within the Symphony of the Seas, and how it compares, actually how it makes the Titanic look tiny. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. You need me. We'll be on in a little bit for a Google Meet. It's up to you if you want to chime in. We'll definitely chat tomorrow. Okay? See you soon, guys. Have a great day.